Hello, and welcome to another episode of Into the Woods with Trapping Girl. I am your host, Linda White, and today I have Angel Lovan on with me. Hi, Angel.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So, for anybody who doesn't know who Angel is or follow her on Facebook or anything like that, Angel, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, your background, how you kind of got in the outdoors and into trapping?
All right, I'm Angel. I'm from Idaho. I am the vice president for the Idaho Trappers Association. I started trapping 11 years ago, I want to say. I grew up in a hunting and fishing family. Most of my cousins and uncles hunted and fished, and a couple of my cousins trapped. My parents are completely city. I was a share baby, so my cousins were always picking me up and taking me somewhere. When I decided to start trapping, my cousins were not. And out close to me, Rocky Mountain Fur and Fireworks, Dennis Heck, some of you guys know him, some of you don't. He's a fur buyer. He has his shop out there, and I went out there and I talked to Dennis, and I got a book on fur handling and a book on trapping. And I just decided to go out and trap. I always wanted to. And so I did it. And I learned a lot of what not to do that first year. And as we all do when we don't really have too much experience. That summer after that season, I heard about the Idaho Trappers Association, and I went to one of their annual banquets, and it was an amazing time. And our old president, Pat Carney, he had up for auction was a coyote trapping instruction, and I ended up getting it. And so me and Pat went out and trapped coyotes that next fall. And he actually became one of my best friends and my mentor. Him and his old trapping partner, Bruce, they had a lot of fur that needed to be put up from past season, and they gave me an opportunity to clear their freezers out and put up their fur, and I make a little bit at the same time. And I jumped on that opportunity because I wanted to be proficient in trapping and in fur handling. And that year we trapped beavers, and that's I'm a water trapper through and through. I like trapping coyotes. There's nothing better than seeing a coyote on a chain, but I love the water. I love everything about it. Beaver and mink are my two favorite animals to trap. And I've been involved with the ITA, probably, I want to say 8 years.
Wow.
My term's up for vice president, and I'm running again for another 2-year term. And so Rusty Kramer, which is our president now, I think 6 years ago, he asked me to be a director, and I said yes. And so I've just been a part of that. I'm also a Trappers Ed instructor with Fish and Game. I go to schools and teach youth about trapping, and it's just, I love everything to do with it.
So when you jumped in, you jumped right in, you were full force. I'm just gonna do all the things.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I that's kind of how I am. I'm either all or nothing. I really have a hard time with just taking it easy. Mm-hmm. I usually have too many projects and too many things in the frying pan at the same time. And so I caught a double on coon that year, another coon. I caught a skunk, 6 muskrats, and a cross fox. Oh, I was hooked.
Nice. That's awesome. So what did your parents think when, you said that they were pretty city and everything. So what did they think when you were like, hey, I'm going to do this trapping thing?
They didn't really have too much to say. My dad's a golf pro. And my family owned a golf course for 25 years. And so she's grown up around the golf course. She's a teacher. So they didn't really expect anything less from me, I guess, because I've always been so outside of my parents, my family is either half redneck or half cowboys. And
Okay.
so there's really, I mean, my family has always just said I was born in the wrong time era. I don't know. I just love being outside. I've done several things as far as like I've learned how to pack with mules and horses. That was something I always wanted to do. And so I went to Colorado and I learned how to do that. And I absolutely had the best time of my whole life.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is so when you decided, okay, I want to start trapping, I want to learn how to trap, and you really had no clue exactly what you were doing. So let's kind of explain that first year. Like you said that there were a lot of mistakes and you learned a lot of stuff that first year. I mean, had you even been around any kind of traps prior to that, or was this literally, I picked up a book and I'm going to do this?
This was literally, I picked up a book while I was out there getting those 2 books. I picked up some traps. And like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. None.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to Dennis a little bit and read a book a little bit. And then I went out and found some areas that looked good, that looked good, but looking back, I wouldn't set that now. Like, for example, a trail going down to the water where coons have been traveling, but you want to make sure that you have got them way out of the brush so you don't have them all tangled up.
Right. Yeah, I could see.
That's just a learning curve.
Right. It's funny
It was a
because
disaster.
so the first year that I decided that I was gonna start trapping and I was gonna trap on my own. And I don't know if you guys have these out there, but they're called burdocks. They're like these little
Like the
sticky,
cockleburrs.
yeah, they're kind of the similar thing. So I decided, okay, I was gonna run my own line, I was gonna do my own thing, and my husband was like, okay, you go. And every time I would come home, there would be all these burrs in my coyote's fur, and he's like, Linda, you need to start setting somewhere else. Like he's like, I don't care where, but anywhere else than that. And it just makes me think of when you were saying about like the bushes and stuff, like not setting there, because now that's probably one of the very first things I look for. Like I'm like, are there any burrs around here? There's gotta be some, because I'm gonna be brushing for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely just those little tiny things that you just learn along the way.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. So then like your second year, you said, okay, you had done some instruction. So you kind of felt like you had some more experience under your belt, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
How did that differ from I mean, like, was there a big difference, do you feel like, in like having that little bit of instruction where you were like, oh, this makes so much more sense? Like, or did you still kind of feel a little lost?
I mean, yeah, I still felt a little lost. And sometimes, I am the first to admit, like, I am not 100% land trapper. Like, I'm just not. As sometimes I still struggle with going and catching coyotes. And me and Pat have talked about this a million times this Sunday, where it's just a dog, you just go catch them. You got to get your location right. But I could go out in 2 seconds and tell you exactly where I want to set beaver traps or mink traps or raccoon traps or whatever, like, and not even think twice about it. Sometimes I just overthink stuff. But that was the second season, was the first time I had gone beaver trapping, and I caught myself in a 330.
Ouch.
And yeah, it wasn't, only one spring had sprung, so I was pretty lucky, but I was down in a run and I was probably almost up to my hips in water, and I saw my safety was kind of like loose, and I don't know what I was trying to save it, but so I'm down there in the water and it went off, and I was caught to my waders, to my knees, and I'm hollering for Pat. We're out on the Bruin River. We're trapping off a boat, and by the time he gets over there, he's just dying laughing because you can see I'm not hurt. And so about 10 minutes later, after he's done, he finally pulled me out of the water. But it was like one of those learning things like, oh, let's keep my fingers out of there. That'd be good. You know, and
Yeah.
now I don't even think twice about it. Now I just go. It definitely is. It's different. So much in trapping to learn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, did you ever at the beginning kind of feel a little intimidated by some of the traps, some of the experience, I guess? Like when you're face to face with a coyote and everything, that can be when you're not exactly sure what to expect, that can be a little intimidating.
Yeah, they didn't bother me too much. But I've also been around hounds quite a bit. And so I think the biggest thing that probably intimidated me in the beginning was the 330s.
Okay.
And they're my favorite trap to use, hands down. But until I got comfortable enough with them, they were definitely intimidating a little bit, especially after I got caught.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But as far as animals go, in the beginning, I think raccoons were a little bit more intimidating, but they're just super hard-hearted animals, and they've got a lot of growl to them.
Yeah. It's funny because so I went this year trapping out in Nebraska. So, out west-ish.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I said to Nikki Schwartz, that's who I went trapping with. I said to her, I'm like, your animals are kind of mean out here. Like it's funny because our coon, like they'll sit in this trap and just kind of like look at you. Every now and then you'll get one that like is snarling, but not really. I mean, they just kind of look at you. And I got out there and this one's like lunging at me and he's growling and I'm like, what is going on in the West? What the heck?
Whole different ballgame over here with our coons. They're not nice at all. They want to talk to you and show you their teeth and smile pretty, and
that's awesome. So beaver, how did that become your favorite animal to trap? Like the water trapping, how did that become something that you just kind of fell in love with?
I like water in general. So when I don't know, like I absolutely love being on the water, whether it's fishing or sitting by the river or a creek. And then beavers in themselves are such interesting critters. And I mean, pretty much everything on the beaver you can utilize besides the guts. But even scavengers are going to eat that. But I mean, we use them. I cook beaver in my house quite a bit. Use it as dog food, use it as bait. And then you've got your casters and your, the claws, the skulls, the tails. Everything is just, and how they're just like humans in a sense, because they can completely just reconstruct a whole area. Just like, they can just wreck a whole area and just like us. And I think they're just really fascinating creatures, and how many can live in a house at one time and how many generations are in there. Like, I think they're really neat and I like to watch them. And I don't know, I think they're probably one of my favorite animals, period.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny because so when my husband loves beaver trapping and I'm like his little pack mule. I was always the one who's I'm carrying the sled, or I've got the cart behind, and he's doing his thing. And when we first started going out, I couldn't get over how many he could take from one spot. I'm like, are we not done yet? And he's like, nope, we're going to keep going and keep going. And yeah, it's crazy because when you look, like some places you can see there's so much destruction and you would think, oh yeah, there's a ton of beavers there. There's there's got to be a lot there. But then there's other places where you'd look and you're like, maybe there's not too many, but yet they just keep coming. And you're like, oh yeah, there's definitely more here than I thought. So yeah, absolutely. So how did you kind of switch gears a little bit? How did you end up going from I'm going to start trapping and I'm going to kind of just, keep going and dive into it now I want to be part of an association, not only an association, but I really want to be involved in my association and start teaching people. How did you make all those steps and transitions? What happened there?
That's a good question. I'm not really too sure, other than just I liked, they asked me to help out, and they asked me to help out with the banquets. Around here, we do dog trap avoidance clinics as well. We team up with the Idaho Trucker Foundation, and they do a rattlesnake avoidance, and we do how to get your dog out of traps if that were to happen, and we educate the public. And so that they asked me to start doing that, and I just felt part of. I mean, the community of trappers that I know are super awesome people, and it's just a way of life, and I couldn't ever. I don't know. Like, I've always just felt so strongly that I wanted to trap ever since I was like a little kid. Like, I wanted to be like, I've always wanted to just grow up on horses and live out in the middle of nowhere and trap. And like, I was just fantasized about all of that. And I just decided I was going to do it. And so I trap when I can. I work a lot. I own my own business. And so I do what I can, and I try to help others. And definitely, I think it's super important that we teach our youth, because trapping is one of those things that if we don't preserve it now, it's not going to be around later.
Mm-hmm.
And so just educating people and getting them aware of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's neat how you said about how you guys have dog clinics and stuff. I think that sometimes the reason why some people are against trapping is because they really don't know anything other than, the propaganda that's out there from PETA, and maybe they had an experience where they had a dog or something like that in a trap and they weren't properly educated on what to do there. So I think that that's fantastic that you're a part of that. Have you, with that experience right there, with that event, have you ever had somebody who maybe had came up to you and was like, you know what, maybe this trapping thing isn't so bad, or I now have a very different view on things, from those kind of clinics?
Yes. So very, very much so. It happens quite a bit. And I think it does help, because you get a lot of women that will come up with their dogs, or the thing is that they're just uneducated people. And I mean, there are some out there that they've just made up their mind, and that's just how it is. And you couldn't change their mind with anything. But most of the people don't care about trapping. They just don't know. And so those are the people that we want to get in contact with, because if those people are educated, then trapping can keep going, because then they know the truth. There's definitely been women that have come up and had such bad attitudes, but then, and it's a little different for me as a woman, because I can talk to them, or they don't expect me to be a trapper.
Right.
And then they look and they see me, opening all these traps and showing them how to use it. And then, one of the biggest things, we have a step stick, like an imitation paw stick for our traps. And so we let these people with sandals on, little kids, anything, open the jaws on these traps and show them and let them get hands-on experience to see how easy it is to get a dog out of a trap.
Mm-hmm.
And so and that's huge too, because then they can really see like, oh, these are no more than a live trap. These are, and in Idaho, the wolves that were brought here, they were trapped in footholds and brought here.
Right.
And so that's another big thing that we like to remind people of, that the wolves that are taking over were actually trapped, and they're doing just fine. Too fine, but
yeah, I think sometimes people think of trapping like in the movies, or they, these big,
Mhm.
huge jaws and teeth and everything else that, you see in like all the horror movies where they put a human's foot in there and it broke, or, and it's nothing
Right.
like those, and I'm like, wow, that's a great
No.
imagination, but that's nothing like that. Like, and I
No.
always tell people, I'm not in the business of catching feet. I'm in the business of catching animals. So why would I do anything that would want
Right.
to actually hurt, that animal, or, these things that they
Right.
come up with?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I'm glad to hear
No.
that those events have really kind of turned some people, and that they're seeing the truth, because that's, I think, huge. And I think maybe more people need to do that. More associations need to do those kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's really, really great that we've been doing those. And I mean, it helps a lot. And Idaho has also made it, we push as an association, we pushed for mandatory trappers education. And it's definitely irked some people, but at the same time, it's not really about learning how to trap. It's about pounding ethics into these guys' heads. Like,
Uh-huh.
just because you can place a trap there doesn't mean you should place a trap there, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like 90% of it is just using your head and using ethics and common sense. But they're just with like everything, there's always somebody that is going to not
You're
do
right.
it correctly.
You're right. I definitely agree on that one. So you became vice president. You decided that this was something you wanted to do, become vice president. Now I gotta ask, when people who maybe aren't within the association, when you say, yeah, I'm vice president of the Trappers Association, do you kind of get a funny look of like, hey, you're a woman and you're vice president and you're trapping? Or do you seem to really kind of get like that welcoming, that's so cool? What kind of reaction do you get? I always think it's fun to hear the reactions of guys whenever they hear that this woman's out trapping, and where they're at with it.
I think for the most part it's good. I don't think I've really had any negative
Do you get a shocked look?
stuff. Yeah, well, sometimes, but I've been around, I mean, especially with our association, I've been around and involved for so long. Most of the people that come to our fur sales and stuff, they know who I am. Obviously there's not every single trapper in Idaho comes to our fur sales.
Right.
We've got a couple different organizations in Idaho. But it definitely, it's one of those things that's been, Tim Connett is one of our directors, and when vice presidency came about, it was between me and him, and Tim didn't care and I didn't care. And so we just decided that I was going to take it. And, but it's no different than just being on the board. We're all part of, it's awesome to be part of such an amazing association, especially our board is so just diverse. We've got, board members from the Houndsman group. We've got ones for F4WM on our board. And it's just our association is such a mixed group that it makes it just diversified, and we can all sit down and talk about things, and we all have opinions. And even if we disagree, we're still able to come up with a solution.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for you? Are you going to maybe become president one day of the association, or?
You know what? Rusty Kramer, and I don't know how much or how well you know him or what he's done for the association. He is doing such an amazing job, and his boots are so huge to fill at this point. It is very, very intimidating for anyone. We've talked amongst ourselves as a board, and we're just like, holy cow, because Rusty's done quite a bit and he's still doing quite a bit. It's his busy season right now. It's farming season, but Rusty has just moved mountains as far as getting stuff going and joining alliances in Idaho and working with other state associations around us and around the country and the NTA. And I don't know, that's a very intimidating position to even think about right now, to be honest, because he does a lot, and I don't have the time and like he does at this point to do that. I definitely do what I could, but
I think some people forget, like these associations, all of you are volunteers. There's very, very few positions in associations that are any kind of paid position. Everything mostly is volunteers. Right. And there are some people out there who I know some that are in positions where I think to myself, like, I can't believe you're not getting paid for this, for as much as you do and as much as you put into it. Like, it just amazes me. Absolutely amazes me. And to think, like, if we didn't have volunteers like you and Rusty and other associations, our rights as trappers would be nothing. These associations are what keep those rights going, keep fighting for, different laws, different advancements, and memberships, all of that. That's so important for people to really get across. And I've said it in a couple different podcasts that I've had, because I truly feel like that right there, not everybody gets along, not everybody loves everybody, but our associations have one thing in mind, and it's to keep trapping going, and it's to protect trapping. And I applaud you for volunteering and for all that you do, because I'm busy. We're all busy. I feel like it's funny whenever anytime you say, like, hey, how you doing, to somebody, their answer is always, well, I'm busy, like, so we're all busy. but
right.
To have that volunteer position and to give your time to something that you feel that is so important, I applaud you, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. And thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. So
yeah, I love it.
Great. So you had said that you also do trainings, right? You said that you were an instructor.
Yeah. And I haven't done, it's been a little bit, but yeah. So anytime when you have to get certified to take your Trappers Ed, you can become, and so anyone can become a Trappers Ed instructor. It's the same as like a Hunter's Ed instructor. You just have to go through Fish and Game or Game and Fish or whatever, and just your state's agency, and get trained and certified in background and fingerprinted and all of that stuff. And then you can teach the future generations about trapping and how to work. And mostly, like I said, it's about ethics.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, probably, let's see, probably 6 years, probably.
What made you decide?
Since I've signed up to be an instructor. Just to preserve our trapping rights in a whole, like in the bigger picture. Like, the more people we can get educated, the better chances we have to keeping our rights and not having so much restrictions or getting restrictions or laws made to take stuff away from us. The more people we can get to trap responsibly and ethically, the better we have and our future generations have. And the biggest thing is my kids, they trap. Grizzly, my daughter, she goes with me, and she loves it. This year she started to help me out in the fur shed, and she's got a long ways to go. She'll be 7 in a couple days, but I want her to be able to take her kids out. I want her to be able to share what we did as a family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The only way to do that is to work together with everyone, not just a single state, but the whole United States as associations, and come together and educate people.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. That's fantastic. That's awesome. So, do you have any stories about bringing your daughter out and teaching her, and how much patience you have had to learn, I'm sure, by doing so?
I'm trying to think, because I think the biggest thing with Grizzly in particular is that she wants to go, and then once we've got it caught, like she'll go with me to check a lot, and then once we got it, then she wants to go find the nearest mud puddle, and it's like wintertime. It's freezing outside, and that kid will be covered in mud from head to toe, and then she's like, I'm freezing. Well, no kidding. So like, I think that's the most challenging thing with her, because I can't keep her dry. My oldest, when she used to go, she's a teenager now, and mom's not cool anymore, but when she used to go, she loved it. But the fleas, I took her fox trapping, and our foxes, I don't know about yours back there, but ours are just covered in fleas. And we both came home one time and we were covered. I mean, we got into a couple foxes. One didn't have hardly any. The next one we picked up and was walking to the truck, it ended up in the ground, or I had to throw it, and then we went and picked it back up and treated it with the flea spray. But we were itching probably, I don't know, 2 hours home, because there was just fleas, and it was pretty funny. She was not too impressed with me. I do have a funny story from last season, though. So my other half is kind of like you, when Michael takes you out and you have to help him with beavers. So he actually just got his trapper's education so he can start trapping. He trapped when he was a kid. But so he's been going with me the past 2 years out on my adventures and hauling all my beavers, and he's been such a great mule. But last year I was doing a nuisance job not very far from my house down on the river, and I was doing a feral cat job, and I knew that there was going to be skunks around, and I just was like, it'll be fine. Didn't think too much of it. Well, I just had all my cages out. I didn't have any tube traps or anything, and I had caught a skunk, and so I called him. And I said, hey, you want to bring me a tarp and come watch me get sprayed by a skunk? And I was joking. I was laughing. And he's like, oh, sure. And so here he comes and he brings me a tarp. And, usually you can go throw a tarp over the cage and move it and dispatch them and be fine. Well, I moved too fast and I dropped the tarp too fast. And he's a ways away at the fence line, but the wind is blowing. So that skunk sprayed, and he's parked downwind with his truck windows open. And so he was just covered. His truck still smelled like skunk for months. And I'm like, welcome. I guess you'll think twice about coming and bringing me a tarp.
Yeah. You might have just lost a helper there.
Yeah, especially for when it comes to dealing with skunks. He'll think twice about that. But I think it's really cool. Like all my kids, like both Coda and Grizz, Coda's been around it since she was 4, I think, and Grizzly's always been around it. And so, she doesn't, this is the first, or last year was the first year she's gone out with me on the water. Because I'm usually out on the river, I'm up in the hills, and so I don't usually take her that far when it's that cold and deep water. And so, but I always bring stuff home, and she always takes in like the mink, or she'll bring in my muskrats, and I have to chase her down. Like, okay, you have to give them back now. Like, they're not toys. I have to go put them up. I got pictures of her just running around playing with muskrats and mink, and if she could pick up the beavers, she probably would. And all my girls have been raised, I raise meat and fur rabbits, and we raise our own turkeys, and we have chickens, and I try to teach them to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining, and we do garden, and Coda's been around the hounds and working hounds, and it's just who we are. And I just, like I said, Coda's just Coda. She's a teenager and doesn't like me right now. So, but one day she'll come back to it.
Yeah, don't worry, Mom. That's every teenager.
Yeah.
We have 5 kids, and so the youngest one now just turned 14. So like I have no friends in my family right now other than my husband. Like all of the kids are like we're not friends. The oldest one is 24 now, and she's starting to finally, we had actually this conversation the other day about how she's actually becoming somebody that you want to talk to her, like you enjoy her again. Somebody stole your kids for a couple of years, but yeah, so I can totally relate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've been asking a lot of people this question, and the reason I ask people this question is because I was on a podcast and somebody asked me this, and so now I'm like, well, hey, that was actually a pretty good question. So do you ever see a way that we can fully, maybe, you're never going to get PETA on your side. It's not going to happen. But is there ever a way or something you feel that we could do to try to get closer to the middle? Like it's funny because I see, like, with social media, for instance, a lot of people, they look at social media and it can be good and bad, like it can open their eyes to certain things that maybe they didn't know. And then it can also be, do you ever see that there be a way to somehow meet in the middle? And is there something that we can do to get there?
Like with antis?
In general, yeah, to get like your the world in general, somewhere to meet in the middle, to find. It's a hard question, isn't it? Like that's why I ask everybody else that, because it's like, how would we be able to do that?
Not podcast appropriate. I honestly, I don't believe so. I really don't. There's too much ignorance, and there's so many people that just want control and power, and that just goes with everything, especially like I don't know, the US as a whole, governmental system, like just all of it. Like there's just no middle ground. There's not. I mean, I would like to say that I don't like confrontation with people. But I don't think that there's ever. I think we're made to think individually, and there's just 2 types of people, and they're either ignorant or they're not. Some people are open-minded and some people are closed-minded, and the closed-minded people are not teachable. And as soon as you become unteachable, you stop learning, and then there's no room for growth. And I think that's 90% of what's wrong in the world right now. So I don't think so.
That's okay. It's funny because so I can see your video as we're talking, and I can see your face as you're talking about all this, and I can see all the things that you really want to say, and you're like, you're right, that's not podcast appropriate. So I love that. And it's funny because, so I'm a redhead too, and like there's a truth about, like, we have that passion and that fire and everything as being a redhead. So as I'm looking at your face, I can feel all those things too, and I'm like, I know exactly where she's going. and we may have to bleep that part out. Like,
Yeah. So
that's awesome. So
yeah, no, it was funny. I talked to Rusty not a little bit ago, and he's like, "Don't say anything stupid." And I'm like, "Shut up!" Like, way to jinx me. So this is me not saying anything stupid.
you won't.
Right.
So I normally try to keep these roughly around about an hour. Is there anything you would like to add, or, kind of put in maybe some advice for, a newer, younger trapper getting out there? You started with a book. Like you said, you made a lot of mistakes. You just decided you were going to get out there. Any kind of advice you would give somebody, maybe especially a young lady? Because I know, and I'm sure you too, like, trapping is the same for everyone, but women, we definitely do things maybe a little different than men, because we have smaller hands, things are a little harder to carry or whatnot. But
Right.
do you have any advice for, some maybe young women that are getting into trapping that, don't do this, or, words of encouragement?
I think the biggest thing is you just have to make up your mind that you're going to do it, and you just go do it. And then you want to find a mentor. Like, I think that was huge, and that changed a lot for me. But if you don't have grasp to that, ask questions. And you have to take people with a grain of salt. Like, there's just so many people that are going, like, trapping is like everything else. Like, you can take something from everyone and leave what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then build your own knowledge, and then get some hands-on experience. And if something's not working, try something different. Don't sit on it for a month and not catch anything. Change it up, rearrange it, do something different until something works. Just don't give up. You just have to keep going. And the more you catch and the more mistakes you make, the more you'll learn, and the better trapper you'll be. But the biggest thing is to always remain teachable, because if you stop listening to others, you might as well just, sit down. Find an old timer, go talk to him for 3 hours, or I don't know too many old time women trappers, but if they're around, go talk to them. Go listen to their stories. You will learn so much from them. And just listen. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just listening, wanting to do it. Sometimes trapping is not fun. When you're sick and it's raining and shitting sideways outside, and you've got a fever and you have to go run your line and you don't catch anything, and then you get home and you're absolutely defeated and you're even more sick, the next day you might catch something. The next day it might be worth it. Trapping is not easy. If it was easy, it'd be called catching.
Right.
It's not for the faint of heart, and it's just fun. It's a passion, and you gotta. And another thing, enjoy putting up the fur. It's a little different for you guys back east, because you guys sell a lot of things green, don't you?
Yeah.
Or in the round?
We
or
do.
you guys put stuff up?
Well,
okay.
well, we put,
Like, here,
I think it kind of also depends. It's like, like our beavers and stuff, it's the difference between like a put up beaver and a green beaver are like $2. Like, so sometimes we
okay.
look at it as like, okay, well, I'm not going to scrape it and everything for $2. Like, it's
Right.
fine, like, and there's any, and right.
Understandable.
Yeah. There's not a lot on our end on price wise that they make a lot
Right.
of difference. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're going to
Right.
tan and you're really going to do something with them, we do a lot of
Right.
just rough skins and things like that. Yeah.
So I guess this next thing is just for people, I mean, that put up 90% of their fur, is get good at it. Fur handling is an art, and it's a dying art. The better you put up your fur, the more money you'll get, which is very slim right now, and the more respect you show to that animal. I didn't get into trapping to be rich. I know there's a lot of people that do, especially over on this side of the country where, our bobcat prices were high at one point, our coyotes were high until this year. And I'm a beaver trapper. I'm not ever going to make any money. I'm sorry. Unless I'm doing ADC work, and that's where I make a little bit of money, but it's not about the money to me. It's just about doing something I love and helping each individual animal species as a whole. And that's how I look at things. It's like, it's not about the money. Yeah, we all have to work. We all have to, we only have so much money to do our hobbies, but that's a choice you make. If you're in it to make a bunch of money and that's what you want to do, then you need to figure out how to do ADC work and that's your full-time gig. And that's just how me personally, in my opinion. I've got some really close friends that don't want to trap right now because prices are garbage. And it's like, yeah, but those predators still need controlled.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't control some of these fur bearers, Mother Nature's going to come in and wipe them all out. And, we had mange run through one of the towns here a few years ago, and it wiped out a lot of foxes. Probably 6-7 years ago, we had the plague come through out in the desert, and it affected the whistle pigs. I never will forget. I took the hounds out to go running in the desert, and we actually got out instead of roading them and got out and went and took a walk. And I will never forget seeing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of whistle pigs just dead, lying, nothing touching them.
Wow.
And that's sad. And when you see a coyote with mange in the middle of wintertime, that is why I trap, is to help those populations succeed and thrive and be around.
It's interesting that you say that because so I talked to a lot of people over the country, with going to different conventions,
Mm-hmm.
and even like through this, and I also am part of Real Camo Girls, so I talked to a lot of like outdoors women and everything. So I talked to a lot of different ladies, and you might already know this, but a lot of the newer trappers that are coming in right now are not coming in because of prices. They've never known high fur prices. You know what I mean? Like, so that's not their thought. They're coming in for the whole thought of helping the ecosystem. Like, that is their whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that idea. Like, I love that that's their mind frame, because that's not going to change. No matter what the fur prices are up and
Right.
down, the population control still needs to be there. We as humans decided we were going to take over the world. Well, with doing that, we need to also take care of what we have destroyed.
Yep.
So,
Manage. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. And, real quick, beaver trappers almost made beavers extinct over here. And we flew beavers, I don't know the date, a long time ago, we flew beavers into the backcountry in crates. Idaho did, and dropped them in the backcountry, and now they're thriving. But that was just because of better management practices.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. That's interesting. I never even knew that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat to, like the little things that you hear from people. That's kind of neat. I never even knew that. That's neat.
Yeah, it was cool because we've got a fish and game museum. I don't know what it's like a walkabout thing, and you go in the building and they show this old, pictures of the crates that they parachuted in, and it's pretty neat. And so I'm very, very lucky and grateful to know the skills that I have. And I've always got lots of room to grow and to learn more. I love it. If I'm not trapping, I'm thinking about it. If I'm not thinking about it, I'm thinking about rabbits, because I've got like a 2-track brain, and I raised rabbits and they're just ridiculous. And so, it's just a way of life. And I mean, as you can see, like my house looks like a trapper house. I mean, a trapper cabin. I've got mounts everywhere and fur, and most of the fur I've caught myself. And,
That's
I make stuff out of my own fur as well. So,
that's awesome.
and Idaho does have our annual rendezvous coming up the second weekend of June in Blackfoot, Idaho. If anybody can make it out, it'll be a good time. It's always a fun convention.
And you guys are hosting the Western too, aren't you? The regional for the NTA?
We did the NTU Western last summer in Glens Ferry, Idaho. So
okay.
Yeah. So we had it last summer, and then this one is, I think it's Idaho United, because we're actually teaming up with a couple different organizations to put on a rendezvous this summer. So we've got Upper Snake and Intermountain Fur Harvesters, I believe, and so
awesome.
it'll be a fun time. We always said we have lots of demos, and then I'm also working on a second set of demos for not necessarily trapping related, but I'm trying more survival skills or homesteading skills. I'm trying to give, my idea is to try, because we do have a lot of women trappers out there, and I think it's great. I also know that they're like at our first sales, we have a lot of significant others that come and they get bored, but they're there to support their spouse, and they don't necessarily want to trap, but they just want to be part of. And so I'm trying to get another list of demos to give them something to do, whether it's spinning fiber or learning how to preserve fish without, needing a refrigerator or a freezer, how to, preserve eggs for 18 months, just stuff like that I'm coming up with for demos too at this summer convention.
That's awesome. I would say canning. So I like, just as a just as a thought there, it's funny because so my family, the women in my family, we try to get together like once a month and do something. We each teach somebody, like everybody else in our family, a new skill. So it was funny because like I live out in the middle of nowhere. We live on 71 acres in the middle of nowhere, but the rest of my family lives more either city or outside, just outskirts of the city. So I decided that I was going to teach them how to can. Okay. That was going to be my thing, that I was going to teach them canning. And I got to tell you, like, first of all, my mother, she grew up like poor dirt floor. Like, so my mom knew all about canning. My niece, who is like 20 years old, had absolutely no clue. And it was so much fun. Like, that was like, I think the highlight of all the things that we've ever taught each other. So I don't know if that's something that may be on your list, but I got to tell you, teaching other people how to can, and just the fun that you get out of like shoving these like tomatoes down the hole and everything. It was so much fun. It was fantastic.
It's definitely fun.
But it was great because like,
absolutely.
Like my niece even said, she's like, well, if we ever get this big shortages, like these are definitely skills I need to know, because I mean, gosh, when COVID came, how many boats were sitting there with foods, hundreds of thousands of food, sitting there that wasn't coming over. These are definitely skills. So I think that's fabulous that you're going to do that. Like, yes, trapping is definitely an awesome skill that we all should have, but there's so many other little survival skills that's awesome.
Absolutely. So I think it'll be a good thing. So I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from it. So now the problem is like with anything, it takes volunteers to help. And so I'm trying to I can't do it all. And so just trying to get people lined out.
I wish I lived closer to Idaho.
Yeah, I know. I wish I talk to Nikki sometimes all the actually, and I want to go over to Nebraska so bad. One of these times I'm gonna get over there, and
Well,
hopefully
you should
sooner than
come.
later. But
So this December, I don't know, like we haven't really told many people about it. So this December, we're trying to get together a women's weekend. And it's not like a
Mhm.
instructional like thing. It's literally women trying to get together from different skill sets and trapping together in Nebraska. We found all this land and everything. We have all this land and we just want to all trap together. Like we're going to rent a house. We'll make meals, and just all trap together for a weekend. So you
Yeah,
should see if you can try to come because that would be so much fun.
that would be fun. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I think she mentioned it, but she did, it was really, really early on and didn't know if it was going to be Nebraska or over where you were.
Yeah,
And I think at that time it was still like you had to have masks to fly, and I refused to do that. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm never flying again. And so then I was like, well, I'm not driving that far. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
I'm
that would be
driving,
so much
so
fun.
I'm driving that far. So it's gonna be fun. It's definitely gonna be an interesting time for
How
me.
far is it? How far is it
I
from you?
I think it's like 18 or 19 hours.
Yeah, I think it's a good 3 days. Well, so from Arizona to Pennsylvania, it was 3 days. So Idaho, I think it's up there.
I'm not looking forward to it, but it's gonna
But
be a lot of fun in the end. So
yeah, I'll have to see what I can do because I think that would be such a fun time.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
Nope, not that I can think of. I think pretty much touched base on everything right now.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I
so
thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you. I truly appreciate you being on. And what is the website for is it just Idaho Trappers Association? If anybody wanted to get
Idaho,
on.
yeah. Yep. Idaho Trappers Association.com. We also have a Facebook page. And so you can get a hold of us there. And I'm not sure if our summer convention is updated on the website, but we will have it on Facebook. And if anybody has any questions, all of our directors and my number and Rusty's number and email are on the website. So,
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to Angel. I know I sure enjoyed talking to her. I think it's awesome, all of the things that she volunteers to do and how she tries to get the message out of trapping and really spread the good word. So, anyways, I'd like to wish you all a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you all for listening. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Trevor Barnes from Barnes Hide and Fur, Sawmill Creek Baits and Lures, Trapping Girl Inc. Check out the brand new lures and baits that we've got. And Adrian Romero from Romero Fine Arts. Thanks all.